lying! This room is empty!
The massive man storms into the cabin, his eyes darting across every corner. Enraged, he delivers a brutal kick to a stone table, sending it tumbling.
Did they manage to slip away?
A voice drifts in from the group gathered at the doorway.
No way! We have this place locked down. Not even a bird could fly out without being spotted.
Another guard shakes his head, dismissing the possibility of escape.
Tear the place apart! Search every inch!
Following the order, the guards swarm into the small cabin, ransacking the modest furniture. The cabin is so cramped that there are few places to hide. Every secret corner is laid bare in seconds. Near the entrance, Chu Lai remains motionless. His gaze is detached, yet his eyes subtly track the movement within the room.
Chu Lai, you brought them here! Where have they gone?
The burly man turns his wrath toward the captain, his voice booming with suspicion.
Chu Dezhuang, watch your tongue!
Chu Lai's brow furrows as he steps forward, his authority clear.
I am the captain of the guard. You would do well to remember your place before speaking to me like that. You think that title makes you special? If it wasn't for...
He rolls up his sleeves, snatching an axe from a subordinate. He moves to strike, but his comrades quickly intervene, holding him back.
Drop it! We can't afford a fight right now. If that thing wakes up because of your temper, we're all dead.
His companions mutter warnings into his ear, their voices laced with fear.
Besides, he's a favorite of Consort Yi. Don't go looking for trouble with her.
The burly man scowls, his face twisted in a silent snarl as he glares at Chu Lai one last time.
Keep searching! Scour the entire village! I want them found, no matter what!
With a final venomous look, he stomps out of the cabin, purposely slamming his shoulder into Chu Lai as he passes. The rest of the guards file out behind him, their heavy boots thumping against the floorboards. Outside, the curious crowd of villagers begins to scatter as the guards' orders ripple through the air. Silence returns to the cabin, leaving Chu Lai as the lone figure standing in the room. He doesn't move immediately. His eyes continue to scan the interior, as if searching for something they missed. After a long moment of stillness, he reaches down and picks up the fallen wooden door. He carefully leans it back against the frame before turning to walk away. The heavy silence of the cabin is broken as the air seems to shimmer. One by one, the figures of Lin Yi and his companions bleed back into reality, their translucent forms solidifying.
Are we in the clear? Did they finally leave?
Zhang Cheng leans closer to Chu Kai, his voice barely a breath. Chu Kai offers a brief, solemn nod, signaling that the danger has passed for now. A heavy sigh of relief escapes Zhang Cheng's lips. The weight on his chest finally begins to lift. Before the guards had stormed in, Zhang Cheng had managed to convince the young boy to aid them in their desperate ruse. The girl with him was a god-chosen, possessing a rare and potent gift. Her ability wasn't simple invisibility. She could manipulate and absorb light itself to render those near her undetectable. However, the trick had a cost. To remain hidden, one had to stay in direct physical contact with her at all times. Zhang Cheng marveled at the utility of such a power. As a small token of gratitude, he pulled a couple of fresh fruits from his pack and handed them to the children.
We got lucky that only the guards came inside.
Chu Kai speaks softly, his eyes reflecting the lingering tension of the search.
If that mob of villagers had flooded the room, our invisibility wouldn't have mattered. They would have bumped right into us in this tight space.
They had planned for this, sticking close to the entrance and avoiding the furniture. It was a gamble that kept them from being brushed by the searching guards. Being near the exit also meant they could have bolted the second things turned south.
Perhaps we weren't as hidden as we thought.
Lin Yi's brow furrows as he revisits the scene in his mind, his voice carrying a sudden, chilling weight.
What do you mean by that?
Chu Kai's breath hitches, his eyes widening as he looks at Lin Yi.
I suspect the same thing.
Zhang Cheng nods, his expression darkening as he follows Lin Yi's line of thought.
Chulai was the one who found us initially. There's no way he's ignorant of the boy's abilities.
But if he knew, why did he stay silent?
Lin Yi struggles to find a reason. Chulai had every reason to expose them, given their history. Instead, the captain had not only kept quiet, but even went as far as to prop the door back up, shielding the room from prying eyes outside. Could it be some shred of kinship? They had barely known each other for 2 days. It felt unlikely.
Lin Yi, it seems your brother's influence in this village isn't as absolute as it appears.
Zhang Cheng recalls the warm welcomes Chulai received when they first arrived. That respect, however, seemed hollow now. It was more likely that the villagers' deference was aimed at the woman in the palace rather than the man himself.
Consort Yi? In the ancient texts, the title was given to the imperial noble consort who birthed a nightmare.
The group now faces several grim certainties. The woman in the palace is undeniably a freak, one that has endured for a millennium. If a few centuries could make the flower so formidable, a 1,000-year-old monster would be an incomprehensible threat. Furthermore, Chulai's own safety in this village is clearly more precarious than they had assumed. Then, there is a Shu. He didn't end up here by chance. His arrival was a calculated move from the start. He had murdered the village chief to get his hands on the historical records, books that surely held the keys to the truth of this world. Ashu had used Lin Yi's group as a distraction, leaving a worthless book behind to occupy the villagers while he made his own escape. But one thing above all else gnaws at Lin Yi, the guard's frantic mention of that thing.
What could they possibly be so afraid of waking?
Is it another freak? Or something hidden even deeper? Something that outshines even the terror in the palace?
We can't dwell on this now. We have to leave immediately.
Chu Kai's voice is thick with concern as he looks toward the door.
Chulai knows we're here. If he decides to talk, the guards will go after Chu Yun and the others next.
Don't worry about them. Uncle Ann is with them.
Zhang Cheng's voice is steady, offering a rare moment of confidence.
We have the gorilla with them too, and little Yun isn't helpless anymore. They won't go down without a fight.
Without their numbers, the village guards would find in Chengdao a difficult target to pin down. Before they had split up, Zhang Cheng had left them with a simple, brutal instruction: trust no one and strike first if approached. Chu Kai understood the logic, yet his protective instincts for his sister remained impossible to quiet.
Stop worrying about Uncle Ann and focus on our own escape plan. With things as they are, getting out of here isn't going to be a walk in the park.
Their initial descent into this subterranean realm had left Lin Yi and his companions breathless, the sheer scale of the underworld overwhelming their senses. Now, as they crept toward the narrow passage with bated breath, a strange sensation crept up from their feet. The very earth beneath them felt disturbingly yielding. It wasn't the shifting instability of loose dirt. Rather, the foundation of this hidden world felt unnaturally elastic, as if they were walking upon something living. Perhaps the perpetual humidity and the absolute lack of solar warmth had rendered the ground into this swampy, pliable state. Enveloped by the strange girl's shielding aura, the group navigated the gloom until they arrived at the spot where their journey into this darkness had begun. But as they raised their eyes, they were met with a wall of solid rock. The gaping mouth of the tunnel that had swallowed them earlier was gone, replaced by a seamless, unyielding surface.
Zhang Cheng, are you absolutely positive about the coordinates? Could we have taken a wrong turn in the dark?
Chu Kai whispered, his eyes darting across the blank wall.
Listen closely.
Zhang Cheng replied, his voice heavy with an unnatural calm.
You can insult my personality or my lineage if you like, but my recall is flawless. There was only one route, even if the heavens themselves conspired to hide it. I know I'm not mistaken. The cave entrance was right here, in this exact spot.
But there's nothing. Just solid rock.
Chu Kai muttered, his hand reaching out to touch the cold, flat stone. He didn't want to doubt his friend, but the evidence was undeniable.
Is it possible the villagers moved with impossible speed to seal it off?
Lin Yi suggested, his mind racing through the logistics of such a feat.
Impossible.
Zhang Cheng stated firmly, shaking his head.
To fill a gap that large so quickly, they would have needed a massive amount of earth from the immediate vicinity. And look around. There are no excavations, no piles of dirt, no sign that anything has been disturbed.
Then what are we looking at? Doors don't just erase themselves from existence.
Chu Kai hissed, a scowl deepening on his face. Before their debate could escalate, the rhythmic thud of heavy boots against the yielding earth cut through the silence.
Quiet. Someone's approaching.
Chu Kai hissed, his hand raised in a sharp gesture for silence. They turned into statues, held in place by the strange girl's invisible veil. The shroud hid them from sight, but it could not dampen the sound of a stray movement or a heavy breath. They stood as if carved from the very cavern walls, hearts hammering in their chests as the footsteps grew louder.
Filthy, arrogant brat!
A gravelly voice spat from the shadows nearby, the words dripping with unrestrained vitriol. Lin Yi recognized the voice instantly. It was the same mountain of a man who had shattered their sanctuary just hours ago, Chu Dazhuang. The burly guard emerged from the gloom, leading a contingent of armed men. His face was a mask of simmering rage as he led the patrol.
That cur, Chu Lai! He acts like he owns this place! If Consort Yi hadn't taken an interest in him, I'd have fed his remains to the earth by now!
He punctuated his words with a curse, his bitterness palpable in the damp air.
He's nothing but an outsider! A stray! By what right does he command the guard squad over one of our own blood? I'll never understand the wisdom of the elders. When they rounded up the sacrifices back then, why did they spare that dog, Chu Lai? He should have been the first on the altar.
Sacrifices. The word hit Lin Yi like a physical blow. The missing outsiders, the empty village, the horrifying truth finally clicked into place. No one ever left this underground world. They weren't guests or prisoners. They were offerings. But to whom? To the silent woman in the palace, or to some deeper, hungrier horror lurking in the dark?
Zhuangge, the tunnel mouth has completely vanished. The exit is sealed.
One of the guards reported, his voice tinged with unease.
I have eyes, you idiot! I don't need a play-by-play of what's right in front of me!
Chu Dazhuang barked, his face flushing with irritation.
Closed or not, we stay sharp. Those rats are still scurrying around somewhere in this maze. Double the watch on the locals. They're the only ones who know the secrets of the passage. If those outsiders have half a brain, they'll try to snatch one to use as a key. The rest of you, sweep every corridor. I want them found before the next bell. Don't leave a single stone unturned. And what about our illustrious captain? What's Chu Lai's current position?
He turned to the guard at his side, his eyes narrowing.
He's sequestered himself in his quarters, sir. He hasn't made a move to join the search. It's like he's forgotten the outsiders even exist.
Typical. Let him rot in there. Word has it one of the intruders is his spitting image, some long-lost twin according to the gossip mills. Blood or not, an outsider is a parasite. Keep a blade at his throat, metaphorically speaking. I won't have that dog sabotaging us to save his brother.
Chu Dazhuang's voice faded into a string of muttered insults as the patrol moved deeper into the tunnels. His hatred for Chu Lai was a living thing, dark and jagged as the rocks surrounding them.
That mountain of meat has more between his ears than I gave him credit for?
Zhang Cheng noted, his gaze lingering on the path the patrol had taken.
I'd actually toyed with the idea of borrowing one of the locals, a bit of leverage to guide us through the maze. But he's already anticipated that move. The window for a quiet kidnapping has slammed shut.
With the guard squad hovering over the villagers like vultures, a disappearance would be flagged within minutes. Once the alarm sounded, they'd collapse their perimeter around the only known exit. They wouldn't even need to hunt. They'd just wait for starvation to drive the outsiders into the open.
Then we're down to one option.
Chukai muttered, his expression hardening.
We carve a path through them. We kill our way to the surface.
A suicide mission.
Lin Yi countered, his mind replaying Chu Dazhuang's venomous words.
There's a fissure in their ranks, a crack we can exploit. We aren't going to the exit. We're going to find Chu Lai.
Have you lost your mind?
Chukai recoiled, his eyes wide with disbelief.
Seeking out the captain of the guards? You might as well hand yourself over for sacrifice. Lin Yi, get a grip. That man is an enigma, not a savior. Even if there's a genetic link between you, there's no warmth, no loyalty. Do you truly believe he'll risk everything for a stranger who happens to share his face?
I don't expect sentimentality from him. I know exactly how much a brother is worth to a man like that, but I also know he's an outsider in a village that hates him. We aren't asking for a favor. We're offering a partnership.
A partnership?
Chukai repeated, the words sounding alien in the oppressive silence of the tunnel. As they lingered in the shadows, Lin Yi's mind drifted back to their first encounter with the enigmatic captain. The more he dissected that moment, the more the anomalies stood out. The guard squad's patrols were clockwork, rigid and predictable. When that building had come crashing down, the thunderous roar should have drawn every blade in the vicinity. Yet, only Chu Lai had emerged from the dust. Where were the others? Why had the rest of the guard remained silent? The only logical conclusion was that it hadn't been a scheduled patrol at all. If he wasn't on duty, then why was he out there, prowling the ruins alone? A chilling thought took root. He knew. He'd been waiting for them, tracking their arrival before they'd even stepped foot in this underworld. Lin Yi couldn't fathom the how, but his gut told him that Chu Lai was more than just a hurdle. He was their only ticket out of this grave. Chu Dazhuang's rant had confirmed a crucial detail. Chu Lai had kept the group's true strength and the girl's terrifying power a secret from the elders. His devotion to the woman in the palace was absolute. If he viewed the outsiders as a threat, he should have been hunting them with every resource at his command. Instead, he'd retreated. He'd stayed confined to his quarters, leaving a vacuum where there should have been a manhunt. It wasn't laziness, it was an invitation.
He understands the situation better than we do.
Lin Yi explained, his voice low and steady.
He knows the exits are sealed, and he knows that if he comes looking for us, the other guards will follow. By staying in his room, he's created a space where we can find him without the rest of the village breathing down our necks. He's an outcast among his own people. There's something he needs done, something only we can accomplish. We provide the solution to his problem, and he gives us the way out. It's not a trap, it's a trade.
Lin Yi led the small group through the dim subterranean tunnels, stopping just outside the weathered timber walls of Chu Lai's hut. The mission required the combined powers of Chu Kai and the young girl, but the final approach was theirs to make together. Stopping his companions, Lin Yi signaled for them to remain in the shadows. He would handle the negotiation himself. If things turned violent, a lone survivor had a much better chance of slipping through the cracks of this lightless village than a group. He crept toward the perimeter, eyes darting through the gloom. Figures lurked in the distance, Chu Dazhuang's men, no doubt. Their surveillance was loose, but their presence was a constant, heavy weight in the stagnant air. He prepared a mental list of ways to draw Chu Lai out, but as he reached the threshold, he stopped. The heavy wooden door wasn't bolted or even latched. It hung slightly open, a dark slit of shadow against the timber. A frown creased his brow as he stared at the opening. It felt less like a lapse in security and more like a deliberate invitation, a trap meticulously set, with him as the intended guest. Seizing a flicker of inattention from the distant guards, Lin Yi moved with practiced silence, slipping through the threshold and pulling the heavy timber shut behind him. He turned, his gaze instantly locking onto the solitary figure seated in the center of the Spartan room. Chu Lai was waiting. The air shimmered as Lin Yi's form solidified, his invisibility bleeding away into the dim amber light. Chu Lai bolted upright, a mask of startled concern snapping into place.
Little brother, what in the world are you doing here? It's a relief beyond words to see you unharmed. You have no concept of the sleepless nights I've spent worrying over your safety.
Lin Yi's brow furrowed, his expression hardening into a mask of cold skepticism. The man's performance felt staged, every gesture and inflection vibrating with a practiced, artificial sincerity.
Drop the act. It's getting tedious.
Chu Lai's shoulders slumped, his face falling into a picture of wounded innocence that looked almost convincing.
Brother, how can you be so cruel? My concern is genuine.
He took 2 measured steps forward, leaning in until his voice was nothing more than a ghost of a whisper, heavy with forced emotion.
I truly am worried. We share the same blood after all. If anything were to happen to you, it would leave a hole in my heart that could never be filled.
Lin Yi didn't pull away. Instead, he studied the man with a clinical detachment, his eyes finally coming to rest on Chu Lai's right hand. A short, sharp scoff of pure disdain escaped his lips.
You know, I'm starting to believe we actually are related. It's not just the facial structure, even our subconscious tics are identical. Whenever I'm weaving a lie, my right thumb has this irritating habit of pressing against the tip of my middle finger. It's an instinctive tell. And just now, while you were pouring out that heart-wrenching display of brotherly love, you were doing exactly that.
Chu Lai froze mid-gesture. The mask of sorrow shattered instantly, the warmth in his eyes vanishing to reveal a cold, calculating depths beneath.
As expected of my little brother, you've always had a sharp eye for the details.
The pretense discarded, he turned and eased himself back into his chair, the sudden shift in atmosphere making the small room feel even more claustrophobic.
Sit! The guard team wouldn't dream of intruding on my private quarters. We are safe for now.
Lin Yi took a seat, his mind racing. He needed information, but he wouldn't be the one to open the bidding. To speak first was to hand over the leverage, a lesson from Zhang Cheng that he held close as he waited for Chu Lai to reveal his true hand. Lin Yi pulled a simple wooden chair from the shadows and eased into it, his movements slow and deliberate as he settled in across from Chu Lai.
There's a question that's been gnawing at me ever since we first met. Back on the mountain, you caught those 2 children with terrifying ease, even though they were completely invisible. So why is it that you can't see through my own cloak now?
The memory of the escape flickered in his mind, the way Chu Lai had charged straight toward the empty air where the children stood, his hands clamping onto them as if their invisibility were a mere illusion. The boy had been certain of it. Chu Lai could see them perfectly.
You're genuinely curious about that, are you?
Lin Yi offered a careless shrug, his posture leaning back into a display of studied indifference.
Call it professional curiosity. If you're not inclined to share your secrets, I won't lose any sleep over it.
Chu Lai went quiet, his gaze drifting toward the flickering lamp as if weighing the value of the information he was about to give.
The truth is simpler than you think. I couldn't see them at all. From the moment I first encountered them until the second I had them in my grasp, they were as invisible to me as they were to the rest of the world.
A deep furrow formed between Lin Yi's brows. To catch something so elusive without the benefit of sight, the implication sent a chill of genuine intrigue through him, though he kept his face a mask of perfect, unmoved stone.
The reason I was able to intercept them, the reason I knew exactly where to strike, was because of the guidance of destiny.
The word struck Lin Yi with the force of a physical blow. To anyone else, it might have been a poetic flourish, but to him, destiny was a cold, tangible reality, the very foundation of his own existence.
What did you just say?
He caught himself instantly, pulling the mask of indifference back over his features. He couldn't afford to let Chu Lai see how deeply that single word had cut through his defenses.
So it was just a lucky break then? A coincidence that the threads happened to tangle in your favor?
His mind raced. Was Chu Lai another god chosen? His own shared fate was a powerful tool, but it required a fundamental understanding of the target's ability before it could be mimicked. Without that bridge of knowledge, even the clearest threads of destiny were nothing more than unreachable ghosts.
Coincidence is a comforting lie for those who don't understand the mechanics of the world. It wasn't a fluke, it was an inevitability. The guidance of destiny is what led me to those children. It's what led me to you, and to the one called Shu, who fled into the shadows. It isn't a hunch, little brother. It's my ability, my power.
A second wave of shock rolled over Lin Yi. It wasn't just the disturbing parallel between their powers, it was the sheer, reckless honesty of the admission. In a world where a hidden ability was the only thing standing between a survivor and a shallow grave, Chu Lai had just handed over his greatest secret with a casual shrug.
It's a fascinating gift, really. Whenever a desire takes root in my heart, a true driving need, the world responds by showing me the threads of destiny that represent it. I simply follow those glowing lines. They act as a guide, leading me straight to the essential elements, the items required to make that desire a reality. Once I've gathered everything the threads point to, the path clears. The desire is fulfilled, guaranteed.
Lin Yi stared at him, the weight of the revelation sinking in. It was like a game walkthrough with 100% completion rate. As long as Chu Lai was willing to do the legwork and collect the designated items, victory was a mathematical certainty. But items in this world were rarely objects. They were people, lives, and sacrifices. The pieces of the puzzle clicked into place with a sickening clarity. Chu Lai's earlier display of innocence hadn't been a lack of experience, it had been bait. They were all nothing more than checklist items in his grand design: a Shu, the children, and Lin Yi himself.
You didn't risk coming here just for a social call. You want a way out of this cavern, don't you? I can open the path for you. I can ensure your escape. But in exchange, there is a small service I require of you first. I'm afraid you've miscalculated. We've already secured our own exit strategy.
Lin Yi spread his hands in a gesture of open, feigned helplessness, his expression a masterpiece of cool indifference.
I only stopped by to pay my respects to my big brother before we vanished into the night. It felt like the polite thing to do, considering we likely won't be crossing paths again in this lifetime.
As the words left his lips, his right middle finger began to curl inward, an instinctive, traitorous reaction to the lie he was spinning. He felt the movement instantly and forced the finger straight, his self-control as rigid as a steel trap. In that moment, the cycle was complete. Two men, identical in face and flaw, sat across from each other in the dim light, both weaving webs of deception with the same practiced ease. Chu Lai said nothing, his eyes locked onto Lin Yi with a stillness that felt heavy. He seemed to be staring directly at Lin Yi, yet his focus repeatedly slipped toward the younger man's right hand. Lin Yi's finger remained perfectly still, but Chu Lai remained skeptical. Such a deep-seated habit could be hidden if one tried hard enough. There was no rush to explain his demands. Chu Lai was simply waiting for Lin Yi to break the silence and beg for answers. If Lin Yi was the first to speak, it would confirm their desperation, proof they hadn't found an exit. Escaping this subterranean realm would then require Chu Lai's cooperation, giving him all the leverage he needed. Once he held the power, he could bend them to his will, no matter the request. Even if his orders meant their deaths, they would be forced to follow them. There was simply no other path. The silence in the hut grew suffocating. Lin Yi realized then that Chu Lai was far more dangerous and calculating than he'd initially feared. He was a man who would throw anyone into the fire to get what he wanted. Lin Yi knew if this lasted much longer, his own composure might finally fail. Rather than let his guard down, Lin Yi decided to make the first move and rose to his feet.
I don't have all day, and I've got an exit to find.
Lin Yi spoke as he began to walk steadily toward the exit.
This was a good final visit, but it's time for me to head out. The others are waiting for me. I'll call you brother once more, for old time's sake. From what I overheard the guards saying, your position here isn't as secure as it looks. But maybe I'm just imagining things. Good luck anyway. Goodbye.
Just as Lin Yi's shadow started to slip past the doorframe, Chu Lai's composure finally shattered. His face contorted, teeth grinding together in a desperate struggle. Before Lin Yi could vanish into the night, he lurched to his feet, his voice sharp with panic.
Lin Yi, hold on. We aren't done. I can help you.
He hesitated for a frantic heartbeat, searching for any way to keep Lin Yi from leaving.
I'm the only one who can save your life. That fruit the villagers handed out, you ate it, didn't you? It's crawling with parasites. If you don't get help right now, you're going to...
You'll what? The threat died in his throat as he cut himself off. A sudden realization seemed to strike him, and he looked toward the entrance with wide eyes.
I hate to disappoint you, but none of us touched a bite of that food.
Lin Yi's calm response echoed back from the doorway. It was a mistake to underestimate them. Since the second they arrived, they hadn't let their guard down once. They weren't foolish enough to trust anyone here, not even family. Trust was a luxury Lin Yi couldn't afford anymore. He'd already paid for that mistake with his life in countless cycles of death. With his friends.
Lives at stake. He wouldn't let history repeat itself. A trap this obvious was never going to work.
That's impossible. The fruit we gave you, it's missing.
Chu Lai shook his head, his voice filled with disbelief.
A Shu was the one who took it.
Lin Yi answered with simple, flat honesty.
A shoe? Why would he take it?
Chu Lai's question was barely a whisper.
That's a question for him, not me.
There was a trace of pity in Lin Yi's voice. He could hear the desperation of a man whose last card had just been played and lost. It all clicked. Had they actually consumed the larvae, Chu Lai would have had them exactly where he wanted them. Whatever those creatures were, their purpose was clear: control. They were a biological leash designed to bind any outsiders to the village's will.
Are we done here?
Lin Yi's voice was as cold as ice.
My friends are waiting for me to return. Goodbye.
Every inch of the movement sent a fresh jolt of terror through Chu Lai. With every potential leash snapped, he was left with nothing but his own desperation. He clenched his jaw, the words forced out through a throat tight with fear.
Lin Yi, I'm asking you, please, don't go. I'm begging for your help.
A heavy, hollow silence rushed into the vacuum Lin Yi had left behind. To all appearances, he was gone. Chu Lai's gaze drifted upward, his eyes empty and clouded with the weight of total failure. A violent shudder ran through him, as if the last of his energy had been drained in a single, exhausting burst. He slumped against the table, his legs barely able to support his weight.
I guess helping you isn't completely off the table.
Just as the despair was about to swallow him whole, Lin Yi's voice cut through the silence from just outside the door. Lin Yi hadn't moved an inch. He'd been observing the entire breakdown, realizing that Zhang Cheng's psychological tactics were working perfectly. Zhang Cheng had been very clear. The moment you hit a wall, you walk away without a second thought. But walking away was just a performance, a calculated move in a high-stakes game. It was the oldest trick in the book, the feigned exit. If the seller thinks the deal is dead, they'll slash the price just to keep you there. Chu Lai was the desperate merchant, and Lin Yi was the customer who had just turned his back. The power dynamic had flipped in an instant. By opening his mouth to plead, Chu Lai had handed over every ounce of his leverage. Now, with the upper hand firmly in his grasp, Lin Yi could finally dictate the terms of their agreement.
We're family, right? I can't just leave you like this.
Lin Yi spoke as he stepped back into the room, his presence once again filling the space. Chu Lai's head snapped up, his face a complex mixture of pure shock and desperate hope, as if a miracle had just occurred.
But I'm not here by myself.
Lin Yi's voice remained steady and reasonable.
I have to look out for the people I came with. I won't risk their lives just because of my own history. So,
he let the word hang in the air, creating a deliberate silence.
So what are you saying? I need to talk to them before I make any decisions.
Chu Lai didn't argue. He was in no position to object to any terms Lin Yi offered. It was clear his need was desperate. The sheer agony on his face when he thought he'd been abandoned proved that whatever he was facing was a matter of life and death. This time, Lin Yi wasn't alone. Chu Kai and the rest of the group stepped into the hut, their expressions grim.
Lin Yi, what the hell are you doing?
Zhang Cheng's voice was sharp with anger, his eyes flashing as he bore down on Lin Yi.
The plan was to say our goodbyes and get out of here. Now you're suddenly talking about helping this guy. Have you lost your mind?
Are you really going to put his problems ahead of our survival?
Without warning, Chu Kai closed the distance, his hand snatching Lin Yi's collar and jerking him forward. The entire confrontation was a performance, a play designed to convince Chu Lai they were divided and reluctant. To maintain their leverage, they had to convince Chu Lai that Lin Yi was the only one even considering staying, while the others were ready to walk. Zhang Cheng's display of fury was perfectly executed, adding to the realism of their dispute. Chu Kai's lunge, however, was an improvisation, a bit of unscripted physical theater. It didn't hurt the act. If anything, the violence made their staged argument feel even more authentic. As he looked into Chu Kai's eyes, Lin Yi felt a prickle of recognition. He'd thrown these exact words at Chu Kai in a previous life, or perhaps a previous loop. He's still as petty as ever, Lin Yi thought, suppressing a sigh at his companion's small-mindedness.
Listen to me, Lin Yi. You have no idea how perilous this situation is. Those vultures outside are counting our every breath. One mistake, and we're all dead meat.
Chu Kai's expression was deathly serious. He was leaning into his role with an intensity that bordered on frightening.
But he's family. He's my brother.
Lin Yi knit his brows together, his eyes darting toward the door. He desperately wanted to tell Chu Kai to lower his voice before the watchers outside caught wind of their conversation.
Your brother?
Zhang Cheng let out a sharp, mocking snort.
Oh, sure. He's related to you. That must be why he just stood there and watched like it was a theater performance while we were being set up. And let's not forget those lovely parasites in the fruit you mentioned. Did your brother say a word? Not a single peep.
Zhang Cheng's fury seemed to mount with every syllable. Lin Yi watched him, unable to discern if this was still part of the plan or if genuine resentment was boiling over. Regardless of the truth, it was clear that both Chu Kai and Zhang Cheng were far more accomplished actors than Lin Yi could ever hope to be. It was a grim necessity. Unlike Lin Yi, they had been living in the shadow of the freaks for years, forced to maintain a mask of normalcy just to stay alive. The performance they were giving now wasn't just a tactic, it was a survival skill they had honed to perfection.
If we had actually touched that food, do you think we'd be standing here having this conversation?
Zhang Cheng leaned in, his gaze boring into Chu Lai with predatory intensity.
Do you honestly believe he would have stepped in to save you because of some blood bond at the moment of truth?
Chu Lai remained silent, his head hanging low as he stood off to the side, a shadow of his former self.
Don't blame him for this.
Lin Yi followed the script they'd rehearsed, playing the part of the devoted sibling to the hilt. He needed to make Chu Lai feel the weight of his guilt.
He's only just met us. It's only natural that he'd be on his guard.
There's being guarded, and then there's whatever this is.
Chu Kai's grip on Lin Yi didn't loosen. If anything, he raised his voice even further, his tone dripping with artificial outrage. Lin Yi narrowed his eyes, shooting a warning look at Chu Kai that went completely ignored. The other man pressed on without a pause.
We were cautious too. That's the only reason we didn't end up poisoned. But we never intended to hurt him.
Exactly.
Zhang Cheng closed the distance between them, his presence looming and suffocating.
Caution is a tool for survival. But what he did, that was an attempt on our lives. Lin Yi, you can call him brother all you want, but the man wants you in a grave.
I didn't.
Chulai looked up, his voice cracking with what sounded like genuine regret. He trailed off, perhaps realizing that any explanation would fall on deaf ears. Apologizing was the only path left to him.
I am sorry.
The damage is done. You can keep your apologies to yourself.
Zhang Cheng waved him off with a look of pure disgust.
Hearing those words come from you makes my skin crawl.
I'm asking you just this one time for me. Please help him. If your anger needs a target, then just take it out on me.
Don't think I won't.
Chu Kai seemed almost eager. The words had barely left Lin Yi's mouth before he was pulling back a heavy, clenched fist.
Enough! Stop!
Chulai threw himself forward, intercepting Chu Kai before the blow could land. He stood between them, shielding Lin Yi with his own body.
This is on me. Lin Yi has done nothing wrong. I'm the one who failed you. If you need blood, then take mine. Beat me, stab me, do whatever it takes to satisfy your rage. As long as you agree to help us, I'll endure anything.
Chulai ground his teeth together, a fierce, desperate light igniting in his eyes. He looked like a man with nothing left to lose.
Take my life if you must. It's a small price to pay.
What use would I have for your life? Dead men don't offer much utility. But you've piqued my interest. What could possibly be so vital that you'd offer up your own head on a platter?
Zhang Cheng was finally closing in on the core of the matter, his tone shifting from mockery to a cold, clinical inquiry. Lin Yi glanced up, shooting another sharp look at Chu Kai. The latter couldn't help but let out a quiet, satisfied snicker before finally lowering his guard and stepping back.
I have to get my mother out of this place. I want to rescue her.
His mother? The image of that woman in the subterranean palace flashed through Lin Yi's mind. The one the villagers spoke of with such reverence, Consort Yi. Rescue her? The word felt entirely out of place. Was she truly a captive? Lin Yi thought back to their meeting. There had been no chains, no locks on the massive palace doors. She had seemed to exist with a terrifying freedom. And more importantly, wasn't she one of them? A freak? To Lin Yi's eyes, she was clearly an anomaly, an entity that had likely outlived generations. How could a village of simple folk ever hope to imprison someone of her power? As if he could sense the doubt swirling in Lin Yi's mind, Chu Lai turned toward him, his expression heavy with a secret truth.
My mother, she isn't like the others. She isn't a freak. She's as human as you or I.
Human?
Zhang Cheng adjusted his glasses, his eyes gleaming with a sudden intellectual spark.
Consort Yi, that title is ringing a bell. It's the designation for an imperial noble consort. If she truly hails from an ancient court, she'd be centuries old. No human biology could sustain that kind of lifespan.
She's the genuine article.
Chu Lai inhaled sharply, a man struggling to contain the storm of emotions brewing within him.
She really is a consort from a dynasty that fell hundreds of years ago.
But you just said she was human. Those two statements are mutually exclusive.
She is human, but she was granted a terrible gift, longevity, bestowed upon her by a freak.
Chu Lai's gaze locked onto Lin Yi's.
You saw it, didn't you? That entity that resides at her side?
In an instant, the memory of that grotesque skeleton flooded Lin Yi's mind, the 8 spindly limbs, the face that was a sickening mimicry of a spider's visage.
You mean that horror?
Her name is Huan.
Chu Lai's voice softened, almost becoming tender.
To you, she is a monster. To my mother, she is a companion, a guardian. Our village records tell a story from centuries past. A consort and her child were purged from the imperial palace when the world first began to warp. Hunted by their kin, they fled into the dark places of the earth until they stumbled into this very cavern. And there, in the silence, they encountered Huan. Huan was unlike the others. She didn't view them as prey. She chose to shield them from the shadows. But protection came with a price. My mother had to surrender her freedom. She was bound to this place forever. Huan's power granted her eternal youth, a life without end, but in exchange, my mother became a host.
A host? An icy finger of dread traced its way down Lin Yi's spine. He remembered the sight of those tiny, skittering spiders swarming over the woman's pale skin. The realization hit him with sickening force. She wasn't just a host. She was a living nest.
For hundreds of years, she has withered in that palace, neither aging nor finding the release of death.
Chu Lai's eyes were clouded with an ancient, inherited pain.
But don't mistake her survival for happiness. She lives in a state of unending agony. Every second of every day, she feels those parasites moving beneath her skin. She yearns for the end, but Huan denies her that mercy. Huan needs her to persist. She is the anchor that keeps that entity tied to this world. I've tried to free her. I've tried more times than I can count, but I'm too weak. I can't even fight my way past the guard squad, let alone face Huan.
Chu Lai turned his gaze toward Lin Yi, his eyes raw with a desperate, naked hope.
But you are different. Those silver threads of yours, they have the power I lack. You're strong enough to do what I can't. Please, you have to help me.
Lin Yi didn't offer an immediate response. Silence stretched between them, heavy and expectant. In the quiet, he was meticulously weighing the variables. Every choice had a cost, and the price for assisting Chu Lai was likely to be measured in blood. Intervening meant a direct confrontation with Huan, an entity of unknown and potentially limitless power. Yet, the reward was equally significant. The keys to the mysteries of his own fractured history.
If I agree to this, what's my compensation? What makes this risk worth the potential for my own extinction?
Everything I possess. I will give you every scrap of intelligence I have on this sanctuary, the nature of the freaks, and most importantly, the truth about who you really are.
Chu Lai reached deep into a hidden pocket, his fingers emerging with a small, weathered fragment of fabric.
Observe this.
Lin Yi took the cloth from him. It was a tattered, ancient thing, faded by time and the damp air of the cavern, but a distinct pattern was still visible upon its surface. Lin Yi's breath hitched, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The design was unmistakable. It was the exact same intricate pattern that had been woven into the infant's blanket he was wrapped in when he was first found.